This is important to talk about. Reason being that, first of all, you see, my people who know this story between Oba Ehengbuda and Iyase Ekpenede, they just go right ahead to say that Oba Ehengbuda, unalived, the only son of Iyase Ekpenede, they actually do not know what happened. They don't know the details. All right. Also, they tend to attribute most of the things that Oba Ehengbuda did to what happened to him before he became Oba and the vow that he made. So let's look at what happened to him. When he was still a prince, when he was the crown prince, so to say, and his father, Oba Ehengbuda, was away on one of his campaigns. He was actually in Eko, that is today Lagos. It was over there that news got to him that his son was planning to usurp the throne. And these allegations were made by the then Onwangwe of Uselu. Onwangwe Uselu. Ulo Balame, Babayaru Lesowa. So he ran back to Benin Empire as quick as he could. So the son was arrested. Ehengbuda was arrested. And if found guilty, would be unalived, because that was a capital offense or capital crime. Now, when he was arrested and waiting trial.
Thanks for clicking on this channel. Please subscribe to FO's blog history and click on the notification button so that whenever we upload a new video you will be notified. Historical event of what happened between Iyase Ekpenede and Oba Ehengbuda. Is it Oba Ehengbuda that murdered Ekpenede'S son? It is proper to tell the story of the man who demarcated the boundary between the Benin Empire and the Oyo Empire at Oto town in present-day Ekiti state. Ekpenede was the Iyase of Benin 400 years ago. Well before his time the Portuguese had already interacted with Benin, to the greatest extent of their abilities. The Benin War against India had been fought and won. For Roman Catholic churches were functioning fitfully in the city. Benin had already occupied Lagos and created a dukedom on that island. Oba Ehengbuda was on the Benin throne, and Ekpenede was his Iyase. The empire-building efforts of the Obas of Benin began with Oba Elwahe the Great in the middle decades of the 15th century and ended 1.5 centuries later in the reign of Oba Ehengbuda. The monarchs involved in this effort were the 5 warrior Obas who personally led their troops into battle. This tradition was conformed with by Ehengbuda, the last warrior Oba. While his father Oba Ehengbuda was a fighting sailor who left his permanent imprint on the lagoon territories of Lagos and beyond westwards, Ehengbuda was a landlubber who roamed the territories of the near Yoruba areas. However, he still died a sailor's death in the Lekki waterways, on the evening of his life, on his way to visit his colony of Lagos. In the earlier part of Ehengbuda's reign, in a campaign in the Akure territories, the Oba had sustained some burns, which healed to leave the scars that were later systematized in the Inwo tattoo, the body markings of the adult Benin citizen. The acquisition of this Inwo made participation in the court life of the kingdom possible. Upon this accident, the warrior responsibilities of the Oba were transferred to his Iyase, Chief Ekpenede. Elevated to the position of the first Iyase to head the army of the kingdom, Ekpenede prosecuted the wars in the Yoruba territories and concluded a treaty with the head of the opposing Oyo armies, which determined the boundary between the spheres of influence of these two African powers at Oto town in northern Ekiti. Please sit down and listen to Izomo Kakadu as he gives us a detailed explanation of what led to the murder of Iyase Ekpenede's only son who was under the custody of Oba Ehengbuda.
Hi. Welcome back. At the beginning of this year, I did say that my first official video was going to be on the story of Oba Ehengbuda and Iyase Ekpenede. This video here is more like an introduction to the video. I'm doing this just to introduce the story, to clarify some things so that you would first of all understand the video or the story very well, and also so that the video would not be too long. I mean, the main video would not be too long. So, welcome. This is the introduction to the historical event that occurred between Oba Ehengbuda and Iyase Ekpenede. My name is Izomo Kakadu. Iyase Ekpenede was the fourth Iyase of Benin Kingdom, the fourth, who actually reigned as Iyase from 1570 to 1600. He became Iyase during the reign of Oba Ehengbuda, that is the father of Oba Ehengbuda. He served Ehengbuda for about 8 years and served his son Oba Ehengbuda for 22 good years. His father was from Uronigbe and his mother is said to have come from Ugeli, that is in today's Delta State. Iyase Ekpenede was in charge, the warlord in charge of Ifon, Ekiti, Owo, and Ondo. Just a little break in transmission. I want to quickly seize this opportunity to appreciate a sister. She reached me through one of my posts. At the beginning of the year, I made a post about some items that I needed for my studio and all of that. She asked me which one was most urgent and important. I said the phone. She was not that strong financially, but somehow she just wanted to help. She just wanted to, to do something. She sent me money. I know we'll tell her how much she sent me money. She has also begged to remain anonymous, but I still want to appreciate you. I want to appreciate you. So please, I want you to help me tell my anonymous sister, Iyase, Enika Ohavon Wekbo, Iyase Kakabo. Oba Ehengbuda, Ehengbuda And Oba. Ehengbuda was the 19th Oba and 50th king or monarch of Benin Empire. What that means is, if we are counting from Oromiyan, that is within the Oba dynasty, we are counting from Oba Mononya or Oromiyan, he is number 19. But if we are counting from the Ogiso era, all right, we have 31 Ogiso, so he becomes the 50th king to rule Benin Kingdom. He was the son to Oba Ehengbuda, and he succeeded his father Ehengbuda in 1578. So he ruled from 1578 to 1606. So that is how he inherited Iyase Ekpenede from his father, Ehengbuda. Oba Ehengbuda was the last of the warrior kings. The warrior kings began with Oba Ehengbuda I. So it ended with Oba Ehengbuda. It was also during his reign, the Fieto, a group of palace functionaries. You must have seen this set of people in some of our festivals or events. He was the one who invented them through his son, the only son that he had, Oko or Prince Odogbo, who later became Oba Ohuan. We'll leave the story for another day. I'll talk about this in more details. Many historians also have it that he is the one who originated the Iwu, that is the Edo body marking. All right, it's said to have invented it from the bonds that he got from one of his campaigns to Akure. We'll also save this for another day. So the summary: on one of his campaigns to Akure, he sustained some injuries, that is burnt, and when he came to Benin Kingdom, he made everybody Edo to bear those body markings, which is referred to as Iwu, which is now today put on clothes because we no longer draw distance. We prefer the Oyibo tattoo. So that was during his reign. He is perceived as a very great diviner, very great diviner. Some people even call him magician, which is what earned him the appellation Ehengbuda Nobu. This is important to talk about. Reason being that, first of all, you see, my people who know this story between Oba Ehengbuda and Iyase Ekpenede, they just go right ahead to say that Oba Ehengbuda unalived, the only son of Iyase Ekpenede. They actually do not know what happened. They don't know the details. All right. Also, they tend to attribute most of the things that Oba Ehengbuda did to what happened to him before he became Oba and the vow that he made. So let's look at what happened to him. When he was still a prince, when he was the crown prince, so to say, and his father, Oba Ehengbuda, was away on one of his campaigns. He was actually in Eko, that is today Lagos. It was over there that news got to him that his son was planning to usurp the throne. And these allegations were made by the then Onwangwe of Uselu. Onwangwe Uselu. Ulo Balame, Babayaru Lesowa. So he ran back to Benin Empire as quick as he could. So the son was arrested. Ehengbuda was arrested, and if found guilty would be unalived, because that was a capital offense or capital crime. Now when he was arrested and waiting trial, the mother became concerned. That is Queen Umelu. Queen or Iloi Umelu was the mother of Oba Ehengbuda. She became very, very concerned. Now, she didn't want her son, her only son, who was even to become the Oba of Benin Empire, to be unalive, to be put to, while she was still alive. As some of them will be mother, you know what I'm talking about. So what happened? She took her own life. She took her own life. Honor your day you high. Honor your day you high. So eventually Ehengbuda was vindicated. He wasn't found guilty, but when he came out, the mother was no more. He was broken. The man was broken. The man was broken. For the fact that it was kind of indirectly because of him that the mother was, so he made a vow. He made a vow that if he ever became Oba, that Edo people will pay for what they did to him by his mother. That was the vow he made. So this is an extra. According to Benin laws and custom, when the mother or the queen who gives birth to the prince to become Oba passes before the son becomes Oba, she is preserved. She is preserved. Ayakai onekena kai what's it here? Ewotubu. Omekena kai ewotubu. All right. She will be there until the son becomes Oba. So after the son becomes Oba, the Oba will pronounce her as the Iyoba, that is the queen mother, or my Iyoba. Aga my Iyoba na we mi yane no heke na uni Iyoba na ya ma Iloi Iyoba. Egenya hando ya awe me negbe ado mwe yotori no heke. That is the law and custom or tradition of Benin. So Queen Umelu was there. She was taken to Ewotubu, and she was there until Ehengbuda became Oba. So, of course, when he became Oba, a lot of things happened. One of the chieftaincy titles that is scrapped, of course, number one was the Onwangwe of Uselu, which is why today there is no such thing as Onwangwe of Uselu. So, you see, this is the event. This is the event that that ushered in Ehengbuda as the Oba of Benin Kingdom. So I hope, though it was an introduction, I hope it was interesting also. So the next video you will see is going to be the video on the real events of what happened between Oba Ehengbuda and Iyase Ekpenede. See you very soon. Oba Atokbere. My name is Ezomo Kakadu. It has been established in the introductory video that the warrior kings of Benin Empire, which started with Oba Ehengbuda I, ended with Oba Ehengbuda. It actually ended with Oba Ehengbuda simply because the last campaign that Oba Ehengbuda went to, he actually sustained some burns, all right, some injuries, fire burns, which actually left some scars on his body. These scars are what were later transformed or converted to Iwu, that is the Edo or Benin body markings. So it was from that time, it was forbidden that the Oba of Benin should lead campaigns themselves. So the military power, the military might then fell on the Iyase of Benin Kingdom. I mean, since Obas were no longer allowed to lead campaigns or wars, then the responsibility then fell on the Iyase of Benin Kingdom. And the Iyase of that time happened to have been Iyase Ekpenede. It happened that in 1584, Oba Ehengbuda needed to settle scores with Oyo Empire. Benin Empire and Oyo Empire had this, misunderstanding, this land issue or boundary issue. So he summoned Iyase Ekpenede and said, look, you have to go to Oyo. We have to settle this issue once and for all. Get ready for war. Iyase was like, Baba, no problem. I will go. But please, I have a favor to ask of you. Please, my lord. And he said, what would that be? He says, sir, my household is very large, and I have only one son by the name of Idodia. Ekpenede'S son, only surviving son and child, was Idodia. He said, my son is very young. He is not even old enough to take good care of himself, let alone managing or administering my household. So please, sir, is there a way you could help me keep an eye on my household for me? Ekpenede's household was actually very close to the palace. It was almost part of the palace, all right? So that it was seen or used as some kind of bastion to the palace. What I mean is, okay, for those who know Benin, let me describe Ekpenede's compound. Unuabehe Street. Behe Street is actually the street behind or between Urokbota Hall, that is at the back of Urokbota Hall, and the secretariat. There is a road there which goes through the back of Oba, that street. If you follow that street down, it's going to lead you across Ekpenede Street and might even lead you to Oba Ehengbuda. So from that junction, if you go through Urokbota, you go through Urokbota, behind Urokbota, you see one crossroad where the graveside of Eden is. Now from there down to where the moat, Ogbe moat, Iya Ogbe, down to where the moat is, then stretches from there to the palace. That was the household of Iyase Ekpenede. So you can see how mighty and how big, how large it was. So it was like a bastion, like I said, so that almost everybody coming to the palace of the Oba had to come through the compound or the close to the compound of Iyase Ekpenede, especially those who were coming from Igwisi, that is Lagos Street, Ibiwe, Uzebu, and some other areas. So Oba Ehengbuda was like, no problem, I got your back, I'll take care of your house for you. He thanked the Oba and got ready for war. He went and executed the war, but luckily they didn't have to fight actually. It was settled amicably without any violence. All right, so that was when the boundary between Benin Empire and Oyo Empire was set at Otun, that is in Ekiti. Now, it was time for Ekpenede to return home. But there is a law, a tradition in Benin Empire, which led or birthed a proverbial adage that says, Iyase ga sohwene egi gwobadie woya ra. Iyase ga sohwen ari geode hwara. What this simply means is, when the Iyase reaches that highest level of mightiness, highest level of power, he is no longer allowed to live in the capital with the Oba of Benin. So a message was sent to Ekpenede from the Oba, and he was told that he could no longer come to the capital, that he should pick any place within the empire of his choice to reside. Ekpenede complied. That was the law. Not considering the fact that he was going to leave only his son, the only thing that he had, the only son, the only child that he had. He complied, all right? So he chose village in the Ekpenede district, Ekpenede, and he was there. It happened that though before Ekpenede even left the capital, he was a big boy. He was a big boy and he was a rich man. But he became even richer and very powerful. Iyase Ekpenede became very powerful. He was, exercising the powers akin to that of the Oba of Benin at Ekpenede. He was so powerful that the tributes that were coming from Ekpenede and even beyond Ekpenede, Ekpenede will seize all of them and he will cherry pick the ones that he will let through to the capital. It is called Ekpenede for a reason. Ekpenede simply means like a gateway. So Ekpenede was more like a gateway from so many other parts of West Africa to Benin Kingdom. All right. So most of the tributes that were coming from these other sub-kingdoms within Benin Empire, they actually came through Ekpenede. So you would understand how Iyase Ekpenede became very, very rich. When I say very rich, I mean very rich and wealthy. Now, so two things here. He exercised too much power, and the Oba of Benin never intervened. He never intervened in the affairs of Iyase Ekpenede. So he was living like a lord, as a lord. Secondly, he was very wealthy and he was living luxurious life. So that Iyase Ekpenede was described as a beautiful and rich harlot without a husband. You can imagine that analogy, right? So, jealousy setting from his colleagues, some chiefs, especially the Unwagwe at that time. That is the person of Osokrikba. They became jealous. They were jealous for the fact that he was very powerful. He was exercising the power that he was exercising there, and he became very, very wealthy. So it was from there that he managed his household here. He was sending everything that his son needed, even more than what his son needed, to administer his household here. And one primary reason his colleagues actually got jealous and angry was the fact that he would seize the tributes that were coming in. Remember, these tributes were not meant for only the Oba, all right? So those palace chiefs, the palace societies, they also benefited from this. So they became jealous. One morning, a news broke out that the only son of Iyase Ekpenede by the name of Idodia had committed a very severe crime. He was accused of being with one of the junior Iloi, that is the queen of Oba Ehengbuda. Immediately, Idodia and his accomplices, that is the Obiloi, were arrested. Idodia was put in chains and he was sent straight to Egwedo, that is prison, Benin prison. The news reached Iyase Ekpenede at Ekpenede. Iyase Ekpenede knew what had befallen him. He knew the calamity that was coming. And this was his only son, the heir to everything, to his empire. He had to quickly think of what to do. So he decided that he was going to do everything within his power to see if they can grant his son a royal pardon because of his personality, because of who he is and everything that he had done for the empire. So what Iyase Ekpenede did was, first of all, to start sending gifts to the capital. Iyase Ekpenede asked that the tallest and most gigantic tree within the Ekpenede district be sought for and cut and brought to him. They did. What did he do? He stood this tree before him. He flung open his store of his store of beads, both coral and intercontinental, all sorts of beads that he had. He brought them out, and from the base of this palm tree, Iyase Ekpenede adorned the tree with beads up to the top. He stepped back, examined it, and said, this is a gift meant for the Oba of Benin, rather fit for the Oba of Benin. He gave instructions that it should be stripped of the beads. So they stripped the beads off and they arranged everything in ekpoki, that is Benin leather bags. Now, all these ekpoki were sent to Benin, the capital, and they were sent to the Oba of Benin, Oba Ehengbuda, and the message accompanied these gifts. And the message was that the Oba of Benin should please grant his son a royal pardon. But it simply states, please sell the head of this child to the man who is willing to buy at whatever cost. That was the message. And when Iyase Ekpenede got word that the gift had reached the palace, he waited for a while. What did he do next? He asked for the tree to be returned to him, and he dressed the tree again with beads. But this time he stopped halfway. He did not adorn the tree to the top. And he instructed that the tree be stripped of the beads, and arranged all the beads in ekpoki as before, put them aside. Then he threw open his store of ivory, elephant tusk. And according to Iyase, he said the elephant tusk were counted in 20s of thousands. 20s of thousands, elephant tusk. He arranged everything, brought out his ododo red cloth, velvet clothes. He brought them out, both locally made and those European ones. Brought out his ekmigo, that is cowries. Brought everything out. After he put all of these things together, he asked that they should go and look for some young men, many young men within Onode district. Each of these young men was to carry by foot all of these gifts and transport them straight to the capital. And he accompanied these gifts with 7 virgins, with special instruction that these 7 virgins should be delivered to Chief Osodi, and the Osodi should adorn the Oba's harem with the virgins, the 7 virgins. Now for the gift, he said the beads that he adorned the tree with and got to the middle should be given to the primary chiefs, right, his colleagues, while every other thing else should be given to Oba Ehengbuda, including those men, those young men who bought the gift, who brought the gift. They were part of the gift. And he accompanied this gift, all of this treasure, with just one short message. Please sell the head of this young man to someone who is willing to buy at whatever cost. The gifts got to Benin, the capital. And when Onwagwe Oshodi received this last set of gifts, Onwagwe called a short meeting with Chief Ese, who is the head of the Iwegwe, and Ine, who is the head of Ibiwe. You know, we have 3 palace societies. First of all, we have the Egaibonoe and Egaibonogbe. Egaibonoe means the chiefs with outside the palace. Egaibonogbe are the palace chiefs. All right. So the Egaibonogbe is divided into 3 societies. We have the Iwebo, we have the Iwegwe, and we have the Ibiwe. So the head of Iwebo is the Unwangwe. The head of Iwegwe is Chief Ese, and the head of Ibiwe is Ine. So Unwangwe Osokrikba called a meeting with the other 2 heads of these palace societies, Ese and Ine. And they decided at that meeting that they will allow, quote, the law take or have his course. That was what they decided. And they also decided at that meeting that they would do everything they could to make sure that Oba Ehengbuda was not aware of this, because they did not want instructions from the top. They say, that from above. They didn't want any form of interference in this case. They decided that. And then, just a few days later, after the gift, all of these things had reached Benin. Of course, it got to Benin and they took all of these things to the palace. The ones that were meant for Oba Ehengbuda were taken to the palace, and the ones that were meant for the chiefs were well distributed. But Oba Ehengbuda did not know anything about these gifts. Osokrikpa, that is Unwangwe, and Osodin, they had a short meeting with Oba Ehengbuda, individually at different times, inconclusive meetings. And the following day, they went to Ewedo, took Idodia, the only son of Ekpenede, and his accomplice. They took both of them. They pronounced Idodia Orionba, and they handed them over to Chief Ekegbian. Chief Ekegbian is the head of the CMRO. And the CMRO took these two. They took them outside the walls. They crossed the Iya, Ogiviyeneva. That is the Iviyeneva moat, which is located at Third Junction. For those of you who know Third Junction at Sokwamba Road, that moat there. They took them across. And once you cross that Iya or moat, there is one famous tree, one very gigantic tree, Oka. It is called Oka Nisiowe, which is today located at that St. Saviour Junction. It is still there. All right, maybe not as gigantic as it was. And from this tree, the only son and heir to General Iyase Ekpenede was hanged. The only son of Iyase, the only son and heir, the most valuable thing that Iyase Ekpenede had in life, Idodia, his only surviving child, was hanged from Oka Nisiowe. Ogogo. News got to Iyase Ekpenede. It didn't take much time for Iyase Ekpenede to prepare for war. He assembled his men, his warriors, for war, and they headed for Benin, the capital. But this time, Iyase Ekpenede had his Ugbogie headgear on. Ugbogie simply translates as, let's say, Kingslayer. This was the headgear Iyase Ekpenede would wear when special instruction was given on any campaign that the king or the ruler of that town or kingdom needed to be unalived. That is the headgear that he would wear when he was instructed that the king must go. So now he is coming to Benin. First of all, it was forbidden for him to come to Benin, and he had on the Ugbogie headgear. So Iyase Ekpenede prepared his army and set out for Benin Kingdom, the capital. He crossed Ikboba River, which was the last form of revolt. Remember, he was forbidden from coming into Benin Kingdom, that is the capital. So when he crossed Ikboba River, Ezikboba, that was the height of it. That was the last straw. They advanced towards Oba Palace, and before they got there, Iyase Ekpenede commanded his army to withdraw, and they shouldn't pass that point. So he himself advanced and went into the palace undisturbed. Nobody bothered him, nobody obstructed him. And when he got to the palace, he demanded audience with Oba Ehengbuda. He was asked to wait, and he waited for a very long time. After a while, he was informed that Oba had instructed him to go to his abode, to his residence, or where Oba will not Sodogbe. Oba will not Sodogbe, which is where, according to some historians, that statement, that talk that he has Sodogbe instead of saying Ya Iriowa came from. So Oba will not Sodogbe. So he was asked to retire to his city home, all right, which he was actually not allowed to come back to in the first place. So Iyase Ekpenede complied. He went home. He was promised that the Oba will send message across to him. 4 days passed, but luckily, the 5th day, a message came to Ekpenede that the Oba would attend to him then. But he was instructed to make sure that he was dressed in his chiefly robes, in his chiefly attire, contrary to the way he was dressed before, as if he came for war, not as a war general now or the generalissimo, but as the chief that he was. He complied as well. So that morning, Iyase Ekpenede got dressed in his chiefly attire and went into the palace. And at the chambers where you called Ura Zolwa, he met other chiefs there. And then when everyone had seated, Oba Ehengbuda came in to the hall. All the chiefs, of course, according to tradition, all the chiefs stood up and they went to greet the Oba. But Iyase Ekpenede, he sat where he was. He did not make any move, a sign of disrespect. When all the chiefs had performed their greetings, they had greeted the Oba, he stood up, went straight to Oba Ehengbuda and started to speak. Now, I will give you the pleasure of, reading for yourself his speech as presented by Iyase Ekpenede, but slightly edited by yours truly. So, this is a speech of Iyase Ekpenede to Oba Ehengbuda.
I have been informed that my only child and heir, Ndodia, your ward, has been put to death. It was said that he consorted with an Oloi or Obioloi. Knowing the seriousness of such an offense, and the usual sanction which it attracts, I sought to buy the life of the offender for a price which has never been offered for any other life since the world began. You know that my life, my health, and my comfort have been expended for the good of this land. I cannot now beget another child because, as you know, I have become virtually impotent. My impotence has been encouraged and accelerated by the mystical reinforcing which I continually had to undergo, in the course of the defense of this land, as the head soldier of the kingdom. It is well known that I did father a reasonable number of children in my young adulthood, but they all died, leaving me with only this young man in whom came to be invested all of my future, in this life and beyond. Ndodia was the son who was to give me to eat and to drink, at my shrine, after I was dead. When a man dies, it is his sons who serve him food. Furthermore, and for the good of Benin City, I had to abandon my house in town, leave for the bush to dwell. The law of the land asked this of me. Why? Because I conquered some great kingdoms for the Oba. Had I been allowed to remain in town, after my struggles for the city and the kingdom, this tragedy would perhaps not have occurred. When I was informed about the accusation against my son, I said I would implore the Oba to spare the young man's life as a gesture to me. I invested in Alagan, the tallest coconut tree in my village, from root to crown, with coral beads, and then sent the beads as an imuhan, a gift from a subject to his monarch, in anticipation for the ikihun which the palace would make to me. I accompanied this with numberless bags of money, a roomful of elephant tusks, and a storehouse of bales of Akpenbo, European textiles. Bringing all these to Benin and told to regard themselves as a part of the tribute, was a whole town of human beings, men and women. All these I sent, through the Huangwar, to the palace. Similar presents, appropriately scaled down, were sent to my fellow chiefs. With all these gifts came a strong piece of advice from me, that the palace should allow the sale of this single human being, to the buyer, to whom the soul was so dear, and yet my son was killed.
He was perplexed. He was shocked. He looked at Uwangwe Osokrikpa Nwango Sokrikpa put his head and buried it in between his legs. And then he faced Iyase Ekpenede and said, look, yes, I was aware that your son was arrested for an alleged crime. But every other thing you said, aside this, I have no knowledge of. I was not privy to any of these things. Whether you were sending gift in exchange for a royal pardon for your son, I was not aware. And that he had been hanged, I also was not aware. However, the Oba Ehengbuda told Iyase Ekpenede, he said, please, you go home. Let me handle this case. We will see how we can repair, if it is possible, how we can repair what has been damaged. Iyase Ekpenede said, no problem, my lord. I will go. Iyase Ekpenede retired to his abode. Then Oba Ehengbuda gathered his chiefs and began to ask them, what do we do? How do we repair this thing? How do we salvage this situation? And at the end of it all, they resolved, they came to some resolution. And one of the primary things Oba Ehengbuda did was to give his daughter, his only daughter. He had only one daughter, and that is Uwi Isiwa, that is Princess Isiwa. He sacrificed, let me put it that way, he sacrificed his only daughter to marry Iyase Ekpenede. Yes, I would say sacrifice, in the sense that, first of all, Iyase Ekpenede was too old, and it is evident from the speech, Iyase Ekpenede's speech that you read, that he had become impotent, that he could no longer bear children. All right. So giving his daughter to Iyase Ekpenede, you know what that implies. So his daughter was never going to have children of her own, but he was willing to do this just to salvage his situation. So Oba Ehengbuda gave Isiwa, amongst many other things, he gave Isiwa to Iyase Ekpenede as wife. Iyase Ekpenede accepted and continued to play his role as the Iyase of Benin Kingdom. But the problem was, Isiwa was actually a kind of special child. She was a special child, so that she had a nickname, Oginya. For those of you who have heard of Oginya. So Isiwa's nickname was Oginya, which was born from the saying Orinya, meaning she was a spoiled child. Isiwa or Orinya was a spoiled child. In fact, she was so spoiled that people will say, "Owe eminoria e Orinya gieyi." Nothing excited Orinya. Nothing excited Isiwa. What would amuse others will not amuse Isiwa. But those things that when other people will see and begin to cry or feel bad about, that is what Isiwa would laugh at. That is what will amuse Isiwa. So you can see that she was a special child. But Iyase Ekpenede managed Isiwa until one day Iyase Ekpenede went to the palace to execute his chiefly roles, only for him to come back to his household and met Isiwa at where we call Oterodo. Like it's an open space in the middle of every Benin home. Some of you might have seen it, all right? Oterodo. And in that Oterodo, there was a well, a very deep one, all right? But the deepest in history was the one in the palace, where the mother, Umelu, the mother of Oba Ehengbuda, fell, There was a nickname for it, which I don't remember now, I'm sorry. If I remember, you'll see it in writing. All right. So it happened that one of the calves of Ekpenede's cows fell in that well. So the mother, that's the cow, was roaming around that well, mooing, trying to cry for help. So Isiwa was just somewhere standing, watching this movie or drama and laughing. She was so excited. So Iyase Ekpenede came to meet this event. And in fact, once he got into his compound and heard his wife laughing hysterically, he was scared. He was like, wetin don happen so that my wife is laughing, because he knew that something must have gone wrong, you know. So he went in, and when he inquired, he saw what had happened. Now the problem started when Orinya or Isiwa was trying to explain why she saw the event as a funny one. Now, in her explanation, she compared the situation of the cow to that of Iyase Ekpenede. She compared the situation of the cow to that of Idodia, the hanged son of Iyase Ekpenede, telling Iyase that just the way the cow is very powerful, the cow could stand anybody, could stand any man, could stand animals of his level. Iyase Ekpenede was a lion. Now this is you are talking to Iyase Ekpenede. He said, you are a lion, but your son was taken away from you just like that, and all you could do is to whine, to cry silently. You know, she said a lot, but this is just a summary of it. Iyase Ekpenede felt it. He felt it. He just walked away. He gave order that the calf should be removed from the well. Now, I guess that was when Iyase Ekpenede made his decision. The next day at the palace, Iyase Ekpenede informed Oba Ehengbuda that he was ready to do his ehi. He's like our guardian angel in Edo. It's the same as our head. So we do worship our head, we do thank our head for a lot of things, which is what a primary thing we do at the Igwe festival. So he told Oba Ehengbuda that he wanted to do his head, he wanted to celebrate his head or his ehi with the Igbo. The Igbo people, they call it chi, like that. So Oba Ehengbuda prayed for him, give him all he could give him some cows, as if he didn't have many already, just to support him. And he went home. He asked his attendants to prepare for this great day. And when it was the D-Day, Iyase Ekpenede asked everything to be brought to him. They gathered everything, and he asked his wife to dress in the most royal and beautiful and astounding way, how do I put it, as she could. Of course, she did not disappoint. She was dressed in the most royal way, in her most beautiful royal robes. Did okuku, the okuku that people are, did okuku with igoloye, with different decorations. Now, something was strange. Everything that Iyase Ekpenede would use for this ritual was there. Everything was there. Everything was complete. Unless the main thing, that is the sacrificial lamb, was not there. Meanwhile, Iyase Ekpenede had dug a very deep hole around and dressed it, covered it with mat. Iyase Ekpenede instructed his attendants to take Isiwa, also known as Orinya, the only daughter of Oba Ehengbuda, and asked them, after doing what he needed to do, presenting her to the deity as the sacrificial lamb, asked that she should be pushed into that well. Iyase Ekpenede pushed, or should I say now, murdered the only daughter of Oba Ehengbuda.